because at the end of the day, we're thinking about how can we improve nutrition, how can we reduce environmental impact, and how can we help with the billions of people that are involved in livestock systems. Think about how do we create more sustainable food systems, at least for the rest of my career here.
Welcome to Clear Conversations. At the Clear Center, our researchers are testing ways to make livestock more climate friendly. And today we're going to be talking to one of those researchers. His name is Conor McCabe, and he is a PhD student in the Mitloehner Lab. He is working with feed additives with dairy cows, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his research today. Conor, thanks for joining us.
No, happy to be here and looking forward to it.
All right, we are looking forward to talking to you. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. You've done a lot. Even before you came to UC Davis, you've done a lot. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yep, so I'm currently wrapping up the 5th year of my PhD here at Davis. The last couple months of my time is coming up here. But I'm originally from the West Coast, originally from Oregon is my hometown, where my family has a small farm where we have pigs, cattle, Christmas trees, pumpkins, all in that order. So a big Old McDonald farm, and that got my interest in animal science. And then I went to New York to Cornell for undergrad. We did a master's at Purdue, and then now I've come here to UC Davis. There's cows across the country, so I've kind of seen the little different pockets of cows throughout my work. My mom was a dairy princess growing up, but we had no experience or affiliation with dairy cattle myself because the cows were sold off before I was born. But it came on back to me, and I've since been involved ever since here with different research projects across different places of the country. And I knew all along that I had an interest in coming back to the West Coast. I had an interest in looking at the environmental opportunities in animal agriculture, and UC Davis was really the place for that to be and for me to come to. So this lab and this opportunity here with Dr. Mitloehner really checked all those boxes and led to me coming here to Davis 5 years ago, where I know I'm in the final stages right now.
So why dairy cows and why sustainability? Why was that interesting to you? Why did you know you wanted to do that?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the hottest topics for sure right now. I had a lot of opportunities with pigs, and that's actually my first entryway to livestock. But then when I went to undergrad, the only opportunity to get involved in production agriculture was dairy cattle, because that's what Cornell offered. At first I started learning more, started getting a liking to it, and then really seeing opportunities that open to you through what I had at undergrad, from research, from teaching, from on-farm opportunities. No dairy farm is the same, in terms of management, in terms of different practices, in terms of what different situations are spread out, and like the different management strategies. I thought, wow, this is really cool. There's a lot of different opportunities here. Plus, I really enjoy butter, ice cream, cheese, like many of us do at the point. So it's been a cool opportunity at the point. But I know a lot of people are interested about sustainability and thinking about what is the role of dairy cattle in livestock systems. And I had those same questions too, coming up in terms of what are opportunities here, where do cattle fit into climate systems, and what role do they play in thinking about food systems as a whole. And so California, of course, has many different forces that are all combined in this nexus right here, and so wanted to pursue this pathway and think about what are some real opportunities, and that this field is exponential growing, and it's still going to continue that exponential growth here going forward in terms of thinking about how do we continue to have animals part of food system sustainability solutions.
And speaking about that, let's talk about ruminant animals and what makes them so complex and unique, and what is a ruminant animal? Explain that to us a little bit.
Yeah, so ruminant animals are animals that have specific 4-chambered stomachs. So they've evolved over thousands and thousands of years. And this doesn't not just include cattle or goats or sheep that we have, on farms here in California across the U.S. But this also includes the deer, the bison, the wild animals too. In order for them to predominantly consume their diets that are high in fiber and things that humans can't consume, they utilize this different chambered stomach to help break down the fiber thanks to the help of microbes present in the gut. And so in order for them to consume feed, of course, they have to have microbes to aid in the digestion of what they consume. But then there's also a trade-off in byproduct that methane's produced as a result of that fermentation breakdown process in the gut. So thinking about how can you still provide for animals and thinking about what they need to and how they've evolved while also limiting methane emissions at the same time is this counterbalance place that we think about what are opportunities to find solutions that maximize animal health and what they've evolved to consume, but also how can we potentially limit or reduce those methane emissions produced that way as well.
And one of those possible solutions are feed additives, and that's what you're working on. Explain your research a little bit to us.
Yeah, so feed additives, I love to use the analogy of how we feed animals is basically a casserole. So we take everything together, we take the haze, we take the byproducts, and we mix them all together so that, when you're taking a scoop of that casserole, you're not just getting the pasta or the noodles or the sauce, you're getting everything involved in that. The additives is just like the small spices that you would add on the top of it before you put it in the oven there. So these are small components that have the ability to make a big impact on emissions because they can do two things. They can do one, they can inhibit the pathway or the enzymes that are responsible for methane formation, or they can make it less favorable to form methane in the first place. Two classifications. The first one there that I talked about would be inhibitors, and the second would be ruminant modifiers there that in small amounts can have impacts anywhere from about 10 to 30% reductions.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about the research study that you've been a part of here, how big it is, and just tell us a little bit about it because it is amazing.
Yeah, so it's been going on for almost a year. We're going to approaching that at this point, and still not even halfway over. So it is a long haul coming here at Davis. We're looking at the molecule 3-nitrooxypropanol, or how we're going to refer on out here just as 3-NOP, because that's a little bit easier for on the eyes and ears. 3-NOP is a product that's coming commercially available here in California through different companies and in many different countries around the world that it's been approved by different regulatory groups. And it has the opportunity to reduce methane emissions by anywhere from about 20 to 30%, depending on the study, depending on what animals were fed, because of course there's interactions, of course, with what animals eat, to how much methane they produce and how well this 3-NOP works. What our goal for this project is looking at, I talked about animals evolving for a ruminant stomach over thousands of years, but these digestive systems of cows have never seen something that would inhibit methane production for this period of time. So could the microbes in the gut essentially work around these stressors? Because that's essentially what they are. They're disrupting what would have historically been a natural part of digestion there. And so we're looking and interested to see are emission reductions the same on day 1 as they are on day 500 plus. Is the real interest here, because there's folks in the dairy industry, there's folks who are milk buyers and trying to figure out their own solutions for their own milk supply chain and carbon associations to figure out can we utilize this feed additive as a solution today, next year, next decade, as we think about trying to permanently reduce methane emissions long-term here in California.
Wow. And so how big is this? How many cows can we talk about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
the scope and size and scale.
Yeah.
So, right now we currently have 66 cows on study. When you look at the UC Davis dairy, that's about 2/3 of the animals. So we're basically feeding an entire dairy of cows every single morning and night, which is a lot of work, and there's a whole bunch of people that are involved in making this happen, from other grad students, junior specialists, postdocs, undergrads, who are all putting a lot of hours and making this all happen every single day of the year. And it's going to be have a big celebration for sure when it's all going to be done.
Yeah.
When we finally figure out that final date, have to pencil that in and figure out what celebration we're going to do then. But yeah, it's a whole lot of combinations, and there's so different many off-seats that we're looking at. How does this impact the whole animal? So how does it impact emissions? How does it impact animal health, animal production? The microbiome are also other pieces that we're interested in. So there's many different components, because who knows if and when this study will be replicated, because we may have done all this work and been like, that's a lot of work, and maybe no one else for any other piece is going to want to pursue that. So it's certainly an exciting piece to be part of, helping set up and play a role in taking part in this at this time, and excited to see when those results come out. No guarantee when that's going to be, but it's going to be, we're going to say, at least a few years from now until those conclusions are brought together.
And just logistically, I mean, how long does it take to get the cattle kind of acclimated to the feed additive? How do you give them the feed additive? Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yes, so our feed additive that we're utilizing, it is a very small amount. I could hold in my hand right here how much each animal is consuming per day. So we think about an animal, and I'm just throwing out an average for cows. They're consuming anywhere from 100 to 110 pounds of feed per day. And so if I put what's here in my hand, across all that feed, it's pretty hard for them to sniff it out or taste. It's neutral smelling, so it's not, palatability is not so much an issue for that. But what we do to help mask it in is we add it to the feed and let it mix through our casserole here, so that way that it gets blended up, and so that hopefully our goal is that in each and every bite that cows are consuming, that they're getting a little bit of the additive as they go. So that way it's not a whole bunch at one point in time, there's none here, so that way cows can continuously consume it throughout the day, because this additive has a limited lifespan or active life when it's present in the gut, so it has to be continuously consumed over time in order to have the same effect. It'd be great if we could feed it once a day and then have a long-term effect, but unfortunately it has to be continuously fed as it's broken down and passed out of the animal at that point.
Make your life a whole lot easier.
It would be.
And then from there, how do you measure the emissions? How do you kind of understand if it's working or not?
Yeah, so we have many different techniques that we could utilize for how we accomplish this on farms. I think everyone is interested in wondering, especially the undergrads, when they first come to the project, they're like, how do we actually measure them? They're thinking that they have to chase the animals around with bags, or how do we how do we capture the emissions at that point, But we have these units that are called green feeds, and the closest thing that I can say is that they're basically breathalyzers for cows, in that the cows are individually trained, some are easier than others, to walk up to a machine, and they have tags in each one of their ears that says that this cow A, B, I'll call Abigail and Bessie for that reason. They come up to the machine, and then it says Abigail's here, so then it drops a little bit of feed for them to consume. And while they're eating there, they're constantly belching and burping methane throughout the day. And we're also interested in other gases such as hydrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, as those can influence metabolism and give us insights into what is happening at the animal level. So understanding how long animals are there. They're usually there at the green feed for about 2 to 3 minutes. Sometimes some animals stay longer, up to 5 minutes. And we take those samples at different time points of the day. Because of course, like you and I, we consume meals at different times of the day. Sometimes we're sleeping, so you can imagine cows don't sleep like us, but they're not eating so much at night, so their emissions are lower at that point of day, whereas after they take their first big morning meal, then emissions are going to peak. So we're interested in looking at how do emissions vary throughout the day. So they try to come and go and get little treats. Some can go 5-6 times a day, which means they're trying to check the candy machine to see whenever it's open, to get this piece. So they do not know that their emissions are being sampled. They just think they're getting a treat, which makes it easier on us to get the data. Just got to coax them at first and learn how to use the machine.
And overall, feed additives, they hold a lot of promise. Tell us just a little bit about that and why they hold so much promise in mitigating methane.
Yeah, so when thinking about methane mitigation, it's an up and coming area and topic, and I think many countries around the world are figuring out how to do it because we have so many individual units to figure out and utilize. As I talk about the downside of these additives, they have to be fed every day, but the big benefit of them is that it's ongoing with a practice that producers are already utilizing. In terms of, we already utilize additives that can help with digestion. We already utilize additives that can help with animal health. Think about probiotics, prebiotics that we use for humans. We also use for animals as well. So utilizing a solution that can, one, already be utilized by producers. It's something that you just readily add to the feed based on what is currently already being done, can easily be applied to that. And so thinking about, there are a little bit of technicalities in terms of how do you get the right dosage and how do you get the right consistency on farm over time, because methane is not something you can easily measure like milk or growth or production. So thinking about how do you standardize that and how do you roll it out has some certain complexities to it. But I think about today we can feed cows down to the individual level of nutrition, as I think others on the podcast have talked about here. I think we are not on the same front on methane and environmental things, but certainly with more time and technology advances, I think we'll certainly be able to say one day that you can be checking how much methane are my cows producing today based on, and it can be a number that's up there and synonymous with what was my milk production today as well.
Absolutely. It has potential for real world impact, which we talk a lot about at the Clear Center.
Yep.
And speaking of real world impact, tell me a little bit about the hours that you put. This is a real world job that these researchers do out at the dairy and out at the feedlot. When you were in the heart of this study, tell us about the hours. What time you would get out of the dairy, what time you would leave the dairy, how many people were working on this study. Just tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's amazing. I brag on you guys a lot, because when we're having vacation or we're having a weekend, you guys are still working.
Yeah, there's a period of time where, I saw my house, I saw the dairy farm, and I saw the lab here in Meyer, and maybe the grocery store too. That was the other one there too.
Okay.
But besides that, every single morning, it's not just me. There's a lot of other undergrads, a lot of other folks that are working on the project to make this all happen now and into the future. But we start when they start milking cows each morning at 4 a.m. And cows get milked twice a day, so that's 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. And that can last anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. To feed every single animal, because we have several different diets across several different points in time. Plus, we have to figure out what they didn't eat, so we can figure out how much to feed them for the following day. Mm-hmm. And so it's this very intricate system. I'd love to just show up and just be able to feed all the animals one given feed. Right. But we got to figure out exactly what to do, how much they didn't eat, how much they are going to eat, and that's all part of these bigger long-term study pieces that are going to come together. Plus, there's a lot of different, maintenance and cleaning that all happens in the background to all make that possible. So it's things that, happen Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and we'll be here in the upcoming holiday season as well, to all make that happen. So it's certainly a lot of work, but, people like myself are in this because it's for the passion, and what people really enjoy to do and being part of it. And so, really thankful to be a part of these opportunities. Didn't want to say that I want to do it every single day, but right. Doing this because this is what we enjoy and want to be a part of. And so that makes it, something enjoyable, and it really makes a PhD in animal science, it's certainly. We have skill sets in labs. We have skill sets in animals. We have skill sets in total work ethic, which gives us so many skill sets to be set up for the next thing here, and especially here as part of the Clear Center with the opportunities that we get to take part in for research.
Well, being at a dairy at 4 a.m. might not be your favorite memory, but what's your favorite memory at UC Davis or at the Clear Center? Maybe can you talk about a favorite memory or a favorite event you were part of, or?
Yeah, so I've been having a lot of unique opportunities and experiences here as part of the Clear Center that I know that I would not have had if I'd gone to another program. But being part of the Clear Center and Dr. Mitloehner's work, being able to attend the Sustainable Livestock Transformation Conference at FAO as serving as a delegate representing the U.S., along there with Dr. Mitloehner, and being there in Rome and hearing how this collaboration around methane emissions and livestock sustainability is really evolving. I think Frank walks around everywhere there, and everyone knows him, and because of the conversation that he's brought around livestock sustainability, and I think about all these different people in all these different countries are working together, and it's exciting to see, and thinking about how much momentum is out there right now and how much is coming together. It was really eye-opening, because we talk about opportunities for solutions here in the United States, And that's not going to work everywhere because not everywhere has livestock systems or thinks of sustainability the same way as we do. Plus, majority of the animals are located elsewhere all around the world. And so it just thinks about how can we think about solutions that are not work here in the US or work in other environments, because at the end of the day, we're thinking about how can we improve nutrition, how can we reduce environmental impact, and how can we help with, the billions of people that are involved in livestock systems to date, which makes this a consistent and challenging issue that we'll continue to think about how do we create more sustainable food systems, at least for the rest of my career here. So.
Well, and speaking of your career, as we wrap things up here, what are your goals with your future, with your research, or personally, what do you want to do from here on out?
Yeah, no, that's all a great question to think about what comes next for me here. As of today's taping, I have not figured out what comes next for me just yet. But what I want to be involved in, what I want to take part in, is thinking about working with various different food companies at this point, and thinking about understanding and providing technical expertise and background that I've been able to accrue here through the Clear Center, and thinking about how do we actually implement these opportunities on farms that I've worked at. So that's the feed additives, that's the accounting systems, and thinking about how do we apply those on farms, and how do we track, verify, and measure them through the supply chains to like what you're gonna go buy at the grocery store that has this reduction at the end of the day. Because I think there's tremendous opportunity there at this point. There's still a little bit of figuring out that people are doing, but I think it's a very exciting opportunity to have like a real world impact from what this area of research has turned to be. So what that looks like and where that's still to be determined. But looking forward to have lots of exciting years ahead in terms of where this will go from here. So looking forward to certainly not waking up at 4 a.m. all the time anymore, but that is the next step for me as I look to wrap up here in the next couple of weeks.
Well, excellent. Your future is bright, Conor. Thank you so much for all of your work here at the Clear Center, and thank you for joining us today, sharing your knowledge with us, and thank you for joining us on Clear Conversations. We'll see you again next time.